Welcome to System Crafter. Whoa. Sorry about that. I just didn't have my microphone in front of me. What's everybody? Welcome to System Crafters. Today is Friday, and as usual, we have our normal System Crafters live stream where we get together as a community and talk about whatever fun stuff we've picked as a topic for the week. This week we've got another, possibly controversial one, but we're gonna have some fun talking about it. So we'll get into that in just a little bit. First of all, I want to say hello to the people who are here today. I've seen a few people on YouTube showing up early. Garjola, Simon, Fab, Hey, Thomas, John, Tae and Kim, Rune. Thanks so much for being here today, folks. We'll let some other people file in a little bit. It's been a busy week for me. I've been working on a couple of projects that are important. One that's not really related to the channel, and another that is definitely related to the channel. So we're going to talk about that in just a second as well. Dionysus, welcome to you, and Daigo, Rajath, first name, last name, very, very good name. Miguel, Technomag. All right. Thanks so much for being here, folks. Mark, John, nice to see you. Yeah, I'm watching the chat on YouTube and the chat on Restream that you see on the screen right now at the same time, and there's definitely like I want to say like a 3 or 4 second delay in chat messages that show up in Restream, which is a little bit unfortunate. But if you see me not respond to your message for a while, it's probably because the delay in the chat messages. AZW and Arya. All right, so today, the first thing that I wanted to talk about is a new announcement, which is not the one you just saw, which is that the System Crafter store is finally live. This is the project I was referring to just a second ago. So for a while now, people have been asking for whether they get like a sticker for System Crafters, the System Crafters logo, or maybe like a coffee cup or a shirt or something. And I've been working for a while to get that set up behind the scenes, and I finally got that set up now. So I've got a few things put together on the website. Let me see if I can pull that over here. I'm going to drag this over to workspace number 2. So this is a little Shopify store. And just right now, I've just got a t-shirt, a hoodie, a coffee cup, a hat, baseball cap, and a sticker. And I've gotten the shirt and the coffee cup and the hat so far, and they're all really good quality. I'll show you in a couple seconds the things that I actually have. I've ordered the hoodie and the stickers, but I haven't gotten them yet because I added them a little bit later. But super happy with how they turned out, and I'm hoping that you will all be happy as well if you decide to pick one of these up. The quality of the material and whatnot is really good, and the printing quality is also really good, surprisingly, for a service that does this on demand. So something to keep in mind if you do order something is that it is an on-demand printing service that I'm using behind the scenes. So it may take like up to 2 weeks before what you ordered comes to you, but often the orders come sooner than that. So it's really just a matter of which type of item you order and which country you're in. Arya says, isn't your domain .cc? I've gradually started migrating the System Crafters domain over to systemcrafters.net because .cc is kind of like people don't understand that domain. I sort of did it as a joke at first because like it's a scheme reference. call/cc is like call with current continuation, but I realized that probably that's not the best domain to have to describe to someone else. So systemcrafters.net actually sounds a lot more obvious. But anyway, let's see. What did I want to say about that? So yeah, whenever you take a look at the store, or if you order something, you get it in your hands, and just definitely give me feedback about any part of the process. I would really love to know what your experience is with the process, what you think about the products themselves, or the pricing, or the shipping costs, or anything else like that, because I want to make sure that everybody's happy with this. This is not some cash grab. This is more me just wanting to provide something to the community and be able to cover my costs to do it, and maybe get a little bit on top of that, just like as a way to continue growing the channel, you know, like to be able to do more things, having a little bit of extra money to put into stuff is pretty helpful. So let me show you a couple things really quickly. I'll show you the shirt that I have, but I'm gonna have to turn off my green screen for a second. I'll show you what it looks like before I do that, because it's kind of funny. Let's see, let me go back to the webcam. So this is the t-shirt. This is the one they call the Midnight Navy or something like that. So right now you see that it's like kind of halfway invisible. Let me turn off the filter for the green screen really quickly. I'm gonna destroy the illusion for you for a second. Now you can see the green screen. Okay, so now you can see that there's actually the green color there, or there. So it's the System Crafter's logo on a nice shirt, good quality shirt. I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. Also, the hat, the colors are different on this than what you see right here. I've changed the lettering colors to white on what you see, and also the wheel doesn't have 3 colors. Now it just has the 2, the light blue and the green. It's really hard to do stitching like this with a gradient like I have in the logo, so that's the reason why that had to be a little bit different. And then there's also the coffee cup, which has sort of like the background and the logo on it as well. A really good printing quality. Now there's 2 sizes of this, and it's like this. This is the 10 ounce, I think, and there's like 11.5 ounce or something. That's kind of taller. So if you like, you know, your coffee cup deep, then you probably want to get that one. I've changed the size of the logo a bit too, so it doesn't come up so much against the edge of the cup. So that's a little bit smaller on the ones that I printed, but they're very nice. I like it quite a lot. I'm pretty happy with how this service works. Let me put the filter back on now so that we don't see my green screen the whole time. Alrighty. So let me answer some questions here. Garjola says, I thought of Creative Commons. Yeah, well, it's definitely not Creative Commons. Thanks, Thomas. Says it looks great. Pagan says, I want this t-shirt. Well, you can have it. Fab says, I like my coffee deep indeed. Yeah, me too. I'm trying not to drink too much coffee or tea today so I don't ramble and stutter the whole time. Let me put it back to the screen here. Excuse me. 10 ounces. What is that in normal units? I don't know. I'm American, so we use all the weird units, so I can't really tell you. Non-free t-shirt. Yeah, well, you know. Who knows? Maybe in 2 years you can find them all free on eBay or something. Let's see. What else did I want to say about that? I think that was it. The sticker is also nice. I haven't actually seen one of these in person yet, but I imagine that the quality is good on those as well. If people like the stickers, there's another option that I can put on the page where there could be like a sheet of stickers. So like it could be one page and there could be multiple. It might be more economical than this one sticker that costs $5 because it costs them like $3 to print it to start with. So I'll probably add that as well. So there's more sticker options. Let's see what else to say about that. Oh yeah, so this is only the first step on the store. I'm sort of doing this as the first run of things that I want to provide to the community on the store, but I'm gonna do some other designs as we go, probably in another couple months after I've learned what I can learn about this whole process, since there's a lot of things I didn't know that I had to learn now, especially like waking up 3 in the morning and realizing that I wasn't accounting for tax correctly in certain cases. So once I've learned enough, I'm gonna start adding some more designs. I might pay some designers to make some really cool designs for other things that are not just the logo, but maybe some, you know, conceptual shirts, maybe some funny shirts, or things that are related to, you know, Emacs, free software, etc. So that should be pretty fun once we finally get that going. Garjola says, "Are you a Vim user?" Yes. Mikhail, nice to see you here for the first time. Paul Ferber says, fluid ounces, 12 fluid ounces at 340 ml. Okay, that sounds good. Hey, Eric and Luke Minax. All right. So yeah, I'm really excited about this, and also thank you to the people who have picked up something so far. I see a few of you here in the live stream chat today. You know who you are. I don't want to call people out because I don't want people to be nervous or have their privacy invaded. But you know who you are, so I really appreciate you having picked up something there. It's really awesome of you. Thank you. A Control G T-shirt. That's not a bad idea actually. Just like Control G over and over, and then relief. All right. So let's go on to the real topic of the day. So, another provocatively named title, but it has a purpose. So we're going to talk about that. So we need to talk about Exwm. And if you have been using Exwm over the last couple of years, I mean, you've probably realized what the actual benefits are of using it and having your entire desktop environment experience driven by Emacs and having access to all of the good features of Emacs wherever you are inside of your workflow, basically. But as I mentioned a few times on the channel over the last few months, the creator of Exwm and the lead maintainer of Exwm has sort of disappeared since around July of 2020. So all of a sudden, no more commits, no more activity on their GitHub profile. It's a little bit concerning just because of the timing of, when that happened, with the global pandemic and everything. So people have become really worried about the well-being of the person, Cheng. I think it's Chris. I think his name is. I'm sorry about that. But anyway, Chris Feng. So the fact that the person has not come back yet, and that there's really nobody else there who's leading the effort to continue with maintenance and fixing bugs and whatnot, people have started to get concerned about the future of Exwm or what's going to happen to the project itself. And there was even an issue that was filed there last month, I think, or maybe about 20-something days ago, where people were discussing this and sort of asking, well, let's see if it will show up, asking, let's see, hold on a second. Yeah, basically asking about the state of the project. One of the people here is, I think, a co-maintainer, Medrano Calvo, and had tried to get in touch with Chris in the past and wasn't able to. So basically, just telling people to be patient and wait and see if they show up again. The creator of Exwm has sort of been off and on as far as like how much effort they were able to put into it, because I think they have personal responsibilities, work and whatnot, so it hasn't been like a whole lot of effort in the past maybe a year or two, but it's kind of strange to see them disappear completely. So what we want to talk about today is basically what do we do now if we are sort of depending on Exwm. What can we actually do about the fact that maybe the project as it stands can't really move forward so easily? So, there's a lot of issues that people still face daily with Exwm, and I've actually started to see them more frequently recently. There's one in particular that has been quite annoying. So let's actually see, because I think it's one of the most recently updated ones. Let's see, sort by recently updated. Yeah, this sort of frame live P issue. So this one in particular, I don't know, it happens to me in just various different places where sometimes I'll open up a window, like a Qt browser window or maybe Blender or Kdenlive. And for whatever reason, after that happens, 9 times out of 10, I can't use my mouse or keyboard anymore, and I have to go kill Emacs so that I can get back into a fresh session where things are working correctly. So there's just really bad issues like that are still around that can't be fixed at the moment because nobody's there to really, nobody who knows the code base deeply is there to be able to go and fix these problems and even spend time diagnosing them, which honestly, with a window manager, is so complex, the work involved to write and maintain a window manager, that it takes a certain type of person to want to go that deeply into how things work and be able to diagnose people's problems, because everybody has different setups, they have different programs they use, all these programs interact with the X Windows system in different ways. So it is very complex to try to maintain this thing, especially if you're a single person doing it all the time. So I was so frustrated with this week. Yeah, I think it was this week. I don't know, like things blur together a little bit, but yeah, I think it was this week. Earlier in the week, I started trying to use StumpWM. And if you haven't heard of StumpWM, it's actually a really cool window manager written in Common Lisp. And if I had never used Exwm, I would probably love StumpWM. I'd used it in the past, and I never really understood the right way to use it. But it's very inspired by Emacs in a lot of the ways that things work. So if you know Emacs deeply, if you're very familiar with the model of Emacs, then StumpWM is a good option if you haven't really gotten invested into Exwm. However, for me, I tried to use StumpWM, and I realized that if I was going to be able to implement the same level of integration with Emacs that I enjoy with Exwm, that it would take a lot of effort, and I would probably have to do a lot of custom code of my own. So it doesn't seem like a good alternative to me. Now, there's other people I know who use StumpWM and like it quite a lot. There's people who are in the System Crafters IRC and Discord recently talking about how good it is, and also working on their own configurations. So if you have used Exwm for a while, but you're not really like completely married to it, and you want to have a window manager that gives you things like normal tiling window management functionality, plus supreme hackability with Common Lisp, and also even things like gaps. There's like plugins you can use to get gaps. So if you like having gaps in like DWM or i3 or whatever you use, then you can get that with StumpWM, which obviously you can't do with Exwm based on the way that it works. So nothing really beats Exwm for me. I think other people who have gotten really invested into it also probably feel that way, where it's just, once you get really comfortable using it, it's very difficult to imagine switching to anything else. And that's what Ellis is saying. Exwm is too convenient to move away. Yeah, I completely agree with that. Garjola says, I usually go to a console just to kill the application. Yeah, I've done that too. Sometimes it works, but sometimes it gets completely hosed, and I was not able to get that working. I have to kill Emacs completely. First name, last name says Emacs Pinky Sticker. That's actually a pretty funny idea. I like that. Are we doing live debugging today? No, I don't have a good setup for doing debugging of Exwm right now, but that's something we'll talk about. Patricio says, do you know if the Exwm maintainer is alive? I don't really want to speculate on whether they're alive or not, because there's no way we really know. Maybe the person just, decided they had better things to do with their life than, write a window manager for Emacs, which is totally reasonable, because sometimes, we get a little bit too invested in these things and stop seeing reality anymore. However, I don't know what happened to the maintainer. I don't really want to speculate on what happened to them, but I am concerned, for their well-being in general, just because it's kind of weird for someone to disappear like that. ZW says, another concern for Exwm is that the author doesn't intend to add Wayland support. Well, the way that Exwm is implemented is very tied to the X window system, or Xorg. So it's difficult to do that. And that's another thing we'll talk about as well. Antonio says, are you going to fork Exwm? Well, we'll talk about that. Okay, so what can be done about this situation? So, first of all, I'm going to go through a few different scenarios here. We'll talk about them. I want to hear your feedback, and let's just have a discussion about it, just to see what people think. First of all, can the project be revived? So, the project itself is definitely in need of help to address these issues that have been coming up, and also just to sort of get a new set of people who are familiar with the code and can contribute and make forward progress on the code base. And since Exwm is so well known and used by a lot of people, it makes a lot of sense to continue forward on this project if enough people were able and willing to take the time to contribute to it. But there is, kind of a barrier to entry, because you are dealing with low-level Linux stuff at this point. You're dealing with, writing a window manager. However, I feel like that should not be something that keeps somebody from being interested in trying it, because you never know. Maybe you'll find out that it's totally what you want to be doing, and it would be a great project for you to work on. So I don't want to say that it's too hard to deal with it, but it's not going to be as easy to jump into as other Emacs packages would be, I think. And we do seem to have one person who might actually be an admin on the repo, or at least has write permissions, Medrano Calvo. So I think they're able to merge pull requests. So if people did start making contributions to Exwm, I believe Medrano Calvo would be able to merge those. I think he even said as much in the issue we just looked at before, where, let's see. For those worried about the improvement of Exwm, I suggest dedicating effort to that end, as I'll try to do so myself. So I think there is willingness to continue facilitating the development and improvement of Exwm. It's just a matter of having people who are available to do that. Arya says, maybe the FSF can help. I feel like with the latest set of issues going on in the FSF, I don't think that they're in any position to do anything at the moment, and that's another thing we'll talk about. Let's see. Yeah, so it would just take an individual or a small group to learn the code and start to try to fix things. So if you have interest in doing that, I highly recommend like going there and maybe try to look at some of the bugs and see if you can reproduce them and just start learning how to diagnose issues and maybe fix them. And then you can try to submit pull requests to the project. Now, Ramses asked, what is the FSF? That's the Free Software Foundation. So related to the FSF, it turns out that at some point in the past, the code for Exwm and the XELB library were both handed over to the Free Software Foundation, mainly because, I don't know what the reasoning was. There's probably an issue somewhere where it was being discussed. Either one of two options, or what happened. One is that they wanted to try to get it merged into the Emacs code base, which requires that the code be owned by the FSF. The other is to get it into the GNU ELPA package repository. I think that stuff has to also be owned by the FSF, and that's probably the more likely scenario because Exwm actually is available there right now. However, this does make for a challenge for anybody who wants to contribute, because to be able to contribute anything non-trivial, which basically means 15 lines of code or more, you have to get copyright assignment approval from the Free Software Foundation. So I looked into that this week. Again, basically like, okay, I know a person that works at the company I work at, and I know that they at least try to get approval for this. And I talked to them about this, and they said that, oh yeah, I submitted the forms. It turns out that it doesn't require as much paperwork as you think. However, the FSF is not really on top of the approvals of this process. So they haven't heard back for years, basically, about whether they're approved to contribute code to these projects. So at the moment, it sounds like I've sent an email myself to the FSF to ask about this. I only sent it yesterday, so I haven't heard anything back yet. But it kind of seems like at the moment, the FSF is not in a place to actually be able to proactively approve people, especially people who may have a more complicated legal situation based on their employer or any agreements they might have signed. So the moral of the story here is that it's probably not going to be easy for people to get approval to work on this code base. So if you want to make contributions and you already have been approved by the FSF to be able to contribute to projects, you've done the copyright assignment paperwork, then you could definitely contribute to Exwm and Emacs and everything else, obviously. However, if you have not yet been approved, there's a chance that it may take a long time to get approval, even if they do it at all. So we can't really depend on that. I mean, there's a pool of people out in the world who are interested and willing to work on this type of project, and if even half of them can't work on it, then the project really can't be revived in the same way. So the pool of possible people is shrinking just because of this limitation. But if people are able to do it and they want to help to continue this project, there's going to be a lot of people out there who will be very happy and relieved for Exwm to be given attention again, get some of these bugs fixed, because like I said, there's a lot of people who actually depend on it now. You know, we've gotten to the point where we've gotten so used to using Exwm that it's really difficult to imagine using anything else. Garjola says, I don't understand what you mean about things being more difficult to get the FSF papers signed. Craig H. continues to deal with this stuff. That may be the case. If it's the case, that'd be great. But so, from what I've heard so far, it's not been as smooth as it had been in the past. So I'm going to wait and hear back from the FSF folks. I sent an email. We'll see if they respond to me. And if so, I'll let you know. But aside from that, I can't really say that it would be easy to contribute to this project until you are able to get approved by the FSF. Let's see. Yeah, so Ella says the GNU ELPA requires copyright assignment. Yep. All right, so if the project itself can't really be revived because there aren't enough people to contribute to it, then what else can we do? Well, obviously, someone could fork Exwm and make it into, or at least fork it to the extent that bugs can be fixed and things can be moved forward. And probably the best way to do this would be to make a hard fork with no intention to merge back upstream into the Exwm codebase, or to ship it to GNU ELPA. So if you are interested in forking Exwm, and I've considered it as well, but I haven't done it yet, then you could do this. You could still, I mean, the code is licensed GPL 3.0, I think. So if you fork the code, you could definitely take it forward on your own path. You don't have to worry about copyright assignment or anything like that, because you're not going to put it back in a place that requires it. So you can do whatever you want. You can just take the existing code base, fix the issues that people have pain points with, and just move forward with that. Or you could use it as an opportunity to rethink some things and possibly even redesign the code. Now, I don't really know what that would mean yet, because I haven't looked at the code enough. I've actually done a little bit of hacking on the code in the past, but I haven't looked at it enough to say that there are specific things that I would do to design it differently. But if you were going to take the opportunity to fork the code, it could be an opportunity to do something new and different if you wanted to try to improve it. So that could be a motivating factor. The two things that could be motivating about that is the ability to make new changes and sort of break existing patterns if you wanted to, and also not having to worry about the FSF copyright assignment. Those things could make it more appealing to somebody to come and contribute to the project. But I mean, aside from learning the code, the challenge to doing this would be making it enticing for people to migrate, and also trying to help make the migration smooth. So there's multiple ways you could go about that. Like I said, you could either just take the existing code and just make minimal tweaks to make it work better, or you could say, go on a different path entirely and try to market it a little bit differently so that people understand the unique value of it compared to Exwm, because people won't really know. You would probably need to change the name too, so that it doesn't have the same, so that people don't get confused about which one it is. There's another package called Exwm X that's out there that's sort of like some extensions on top, and I think that's confusing to people. I don't really even know what the benefit of that is. I'm not sure if a lot of people use it or not, but yeah, I wouldn't name it Exwm if I were to do a hard fork of this project. Garjola says, hard fork is a bad idea. I think Emacs. Well, I think the problem with the Emacs fork is that, and I think Benoit also says this, is that in that specific case, GNU Emacs and Emacs were being developed in parallel and they were deviating. But in this case, Exwm is not being developed. So if the maintainer comes back, or if a group of people come in and start making improvements to Exwm, that's all well and good. The fork doesn't really need to happen. But if that can't happen, then a fork could be a viable approach, I think, to at least have a new future for the project and go in a way that may be more maintainable to other people in the future. Get more people on the board, on board, so there's not such a, I don't know, is it like a high bus factor or a low bus factor? I guess the idea is that, you don't want to have a single point of failure in a project, so that if that person decides they can't work on it anymore, that there's nobody else left, because this is the situation we're in right now, basically. So Ella says, basing everything on X is a bad idea. Wayland is definitely the future, and there's no serious maintainer to accept large changes. Let's see. Felipe says, Emacs Wayland Compositor, EWC. Well, that sounds not too bad. Ella says, the complex bits are related to X and its interesting API. Core says, Wayland can run all X apps through X Wayland. However, you can't use an X Windows or Xorg window manager in Wayland. That's the problem here. Ella says Wayland is slow and not a straight replacement. High bus factor is what you want, is what Benoit says. Yeah, definitely. So let me see. Got a message here. I've got to check real quick. Whoops. Okay, so yeah, I think that this would be the fastest route to a bright new future for the project and for having a window manager that you could use from, or basically making Emacs a window manager, continuing that path of Emacs being a window manager. But that's not necessarily the only option if you wanted to go on a different route. So if we're considering a fork, why not just think bigger than that? Maybe there's another approach that could be taken that doesn't require doing the same thing that Exwm already does. And maybe we can fix some of the core issues with Exwm while also planning for the future. So these ideas are just ideas. I'm not announcing any project. I'm not saying that this is something that I'm going to do. I'm just saying here is some thoughts of an approach that can be taken that may actually solve some problems that we have with Exwm and also give us a path towards Wayland and other nice things. So something I've been thinking about a little bit this week is the possibility of writing like a minimal window manager core that's not written in Emacs Lisp, but is driven by Emacs Lisp through RPC or through some communication channel to this core, this process that's running outside of Emacs. And the reason why you would want to do that is to avoid the issues with the single-threaded nature by default of Emacs, and these issues where sometimes when you start pressing key bindings and it maybe just locks up Emacs completely, and sometimes you can get out of it by pressing Control-G, sometimes you can't. Some of these really weird issues that turn into edge cases and cause the experience of using Exwm to be not very smooth sometimes. I think that having it be a... Come on now, TC Jundia. I think having it be a... I can't even block this person. Anyway, I lost my train of thought. So having it be a separate process means that you aren't beholden to the threading model of Emacs anymore. There's a separate process that may be the one that's taking all the keyboard input and doing all the window management activities and then communicating with Emacs so that most of the configuration and functionality is written in the Emacs Lisp layer, but all the things that really happen with the window manager are happening with this other core process. So if you create an abstract internal model for doing this, where when Emacs is communicating to this external process, it's not talking in terms of X Windows concepts, it's talking in terms of like general concepts, then you could imagine that you have sort of, you develop the Xorg window manager first and get all that working, and then you try to develop a Wayland version of the same thing so that possibly you could have the Emacs window manager working for Wayland as well. You just have a different backend for that. And what Ella says is JSON RPC, something like that, maybe. I don't know that, I think what I would use is S expression. So it's like S expression RPC in that case. But the idea being that you sort of use a similar model to what you see with like language servers and whatnot, to have a window manager core that doesn't really do much aside from just the nuts and bolts of dealing with the keyboard, dealing with displays, dealing with basic window management, but all the actual logic is implemented in Emacs Lisp. So the split would be the window manager core would be notified when a new window gets created, like if a program gets launched and a window pops up, then that would notify the Emacs Lisp code, and the Emacs Lisp code would have the ability to say where that thing goes on the screen. So you would have full control over window placement in the Emacs Lisp code because it knows when a new window appears. It would be able to talk back to the core to say, put the window in whatever location it wants. I think that could be a decent approach. I don't know what pitfalls there may be to that, but that is definitely a possibility. I feel like that's a goal that could be achieved. Fosker says, why not just target Wayland solely? Sure, you could do that, but I don't know if many people are ready to switch to Wayland yet, because I mean, I think the Wayland situation has improved significantly over the last couple of years, but I don't know that people are fully ready for Wayland yet. I am not necessarily ready to switch fully to Wayland yet either, but I could definitely be convinced to try it if I had the ability to do it. Jaron says, I was also thinking of making an Exwm, WM, but Wayland. My idea is that we can use dynamic modules for the core, but would still suffer from the single-threaded nature of Emacs. Yeah, that's really the problem, is that whenever you have to do the low-level work with Emacs, you are going to be beholden to the core. Emacs does have some kind of threading model, but I don't know how, excuse me, how reliable it is. So it would definitely need some care involved. And I think that's the reason why we end up with problems with Exwm, is because it's trying to do systems level programming in Emacs, and you need to be able to work at the same level as the OS in a lot of cases, which means being, properly asynchronous and event driven. So let's see. Christian says, what about the classics such as Qtile? Well, I mean, anybody could use Qtile right now if they wanted to, and you could probably write a mechanism for controlling Qtile from Emacs Lisp, but I personally don't want to use Qtile. Not because I have anything against it, but just, I would rather think about doing something different, I guess. Lieutenant says, I have a lot of issues with Emacs hanging, especially in tramp sessions. Is there a general troubleshooting guide for this kind of stuff? Yeah, not really. I don't know if there is. If anybody knows, definitely say it in the chat. GNU Ninja says, suckless Exwm. Well, I guess technically you could see it that way. I mean, I would definitely take a lot of inspiration from DWM, not in terms of how it works, but just like the fact that the code is so straightforward and most of it's written in one file. You could look at it and learn how to write a window manager. So I would probably use DWM as a very good example of how to do window management in an X window system. I think Paul says, agreed, core WM should be in C, Wayland ready, and controlled by eLisp. Yeah, that would be really cool if we could do that. Jafer says, I've switched fully to Wayland for a year probably to Sway. It's been great, except that I've been having issues with screen sharing on Teams, Zoom, etc. Yeah, that is the main reason why I have not switched. A lot of my workflow depends on screen sharing because I'm doing, videos and streaming. Also, when I do calls on things like Zoom or Teams or whatever, it's important to be able to do screen sharing. So I think that situation is improving, but at least until it's seamless, I can't really fully switch over to Wayland. Marduk says Xmonad is another good WM. Yeah, definitely. It's a good WM. I haven't used it, but I think a lot of people do like it. Fosker says, I've used Xmonad for years, but I've found Sway much snappier. That's cool. I haven't used Sway yet. Let's see. Benjamin says, I use Xmonad. It's pretty hackable. The thing I don't like about Xmonad, which could be my mistaken interpretation, is that it's configured in Haskell, and I'm not necessarily interested in writing Haskell for configuration. Otherwise, I would use things like Nix. Emacs Way window manager. That sounds pretty cool. All right, so back to what I was saying. So definitely, I would either write it in C or like an embedded scheme like Chibi, or some other scheme implementation that can compile to a native executable. Gambit scheme is another possibility for that, but the currently released version of Gambit, this current stable release of Gambit, is missing a lot of newer features that I like to use, and I don't know that I would want to have people use a development build of Gambit for day-to-day development. So Chibi is a good... Chibi is what I was actually using for the mesh compiler, so I use that for writing the scheme code for all the compiler activities, so I already sort of know how to set up a project like that. So that's a possibility. I kind of would like to use this as an opportunity to write some C code, just like a plain C application, because it's kind of fun. However, that does bring in the pain of things like having to, if you have to build strings, which is a possibility, because if you're going to be communicating with another process, you have to build a string to send a payload. You could do it as bytes as well, but dealing with strings is difficult because you have to allocate all the string information and then call functions to concatenate them, and this is kind of a headache. Ramsey says, what about Guile? Guile can't produce standalone binaries. Now, obviously, that doesn't have to be a requirement. Guile is a great language, so I'll consider it for sure. I'll certainly consider it. I have written Guile recently, and I enjoy it for sure. It actually is pretty good for systems programming. Also, one thing that would be cool, which you can't currently do in Exwm, is to make it possible to have a more traditional tiling window manager that is still Emacs driven. So when I say traditional, I mean one where the X windows or the Wayland windows are in their own location on screen and don't have to be stuck within an Emacs frame. So the way that Exwm works, if you didn't know already, is that it basically abuses the Emacs frame system so that any X window shows up in an Emacs frame, either in a window, which could be split next to other Emacs buffers, like sort of what you see right now. This is a Firefox window that's in an Emacs buffer. Or if it's a pop-up window, it's actually a pop-up window with an Emacs frame kind of hiding behind it. So I would prefer if that wasn't necessary, because I feel like it's kind of clunky and it doesn't give you the necessary control you might want to have. So the goal would be to make it possible to do something more like Stump or DWM or i3 or any other window manager, where you can have like the Emacs frame be in one part of the screen and have the X windows be in another part of the screen. I don't really know how much that's going to break the integration into Emacs, but it's something that could be tried just to see how it would work. And the other thing is that it would give you the ability to do gaps, because gaps actually look kind of nice with the right configuration. So if you like having an interface with gaps, then this would be a way to accomplish that, because you're not beholden to everything being inside of an Emacs frame in Emacs windows anymore. However, one place where this does cause problems is if you're using the Emacs window navigation commands, like to go to the leftmost window, rightmost window. Those wouldn't work the same way anymore. You would probably have to use custom versions of those to deal with that. But yeah. Christian says System Crappers WM, SCWM. Yeah, I wouldn't call it System Crappers WM, but it nice to use the name, but maybe call it something else if I did that. Excuse me. Ramses says, I read that Stump WM can be controlled through Slime. It definitely can be controlled through Slime. I mean, basically, if you set up a REPL running in Stump WM, you can send expressions to it to evaluate, and you can use that to control things from Emacs for sure. But I feel like that's not the most ideal way to control a window manager, because it would be more efficient to have a protocol that's tuned more to, interacting between a driver and the core that is providing the actual functionality. So, excuse me. So I don't know. It requires extra setup on the Emacs side. You have to install Slime, set up Slime, you have to start a REPL instead of Stump WM. It just feels like it's too much extra work that it'd be nice if it just sort of worked out of the box by default. So, this would be a huge undertaking, obviously. I mean, to do something from scratch, especially to the level that I've described, would take a lot of time and a lot of people. Which is why I'm not saying that I'm going to do this. I'm saying that I'm interested in what that would look like, and I'm interested in prototyping some stuff, but I can't say that this is something that's going to happen. So if you want to know what's more likely to happen, the more likely thing to happen would be forking Exwm to fix issues, but also experimenting with this as well. Ella says the problem people are missing is that anything that sits on top of Emacs is another layer of bindings. Move frame, move window are the same function and binding in Exwm. Yes, that is a nice thing about Exwm, is that you are using all of Emacs' own inbuilt functions for doing this stuff. So it's worth considering, whether you would want to go in a model where you're sort of doing a hybrid approach and things aren't really the same anymore. Jerwin says, I'm guessing it's better to fork DWM instead of Exwm for this. It could be. I mean, it could be that you could take the DWM code and then slice it up a bit and then reuse it for this purpose. Definitely possible. Let's see, Garjola says, ambitious is great, but may never happen. Bridge Emacs with Stump WM may be easier, and Mahogany is the Wayland successor for Wayland, so the work for migration could be smaller. I need to look into Mahogany. I know that Garjola told me about this in IRC, but I haven't had a chance to look at it yet. Sounds pretty cool though. Aria says, have you tried the PGTK branch? Well, I don't use Wayland, so I can't really use it. I've built it once and I ran it, but I can't really use it because I don't have a Wayland window manager. I've heard it's faster though. Yim says, anyone seen a WM written in Rust? Seems like a Rust is a more popular language recently, but I don't see WM written in it. There is one. I don't remember the name. The author of it follows me on Twitter. Let me check really quick, because it actually isn't a WM per se. It's more like a framework for writing window managers in Rust. Oh, that's it. It's left WM, I think. Let me check that. I think that's right. Let me pull it up here. Could be something else actually. Let me check. Whoops. Let's pull that. I'll double check on my other screen really quickly. Oh, not that one. If anybody else can think of a name of one of these, that would also be helpful. Come on. Probably won't be able to find it. Oh, that's okay. I'm not going to waste too much more time on this. Okay. Ah, that's the one I was thinking of. Penrose. Thank you. Yes, Penrose. A Rust tiling window manager in the spirit of DWM. Where is the real homepage for this? Come on. Anyway, idea being that there are window managers written in Rust, so if you just search them, you can find them. Christian says, if Exwm did not exist, what window manager would you use? In the past, I used i3. I would probably also experiment with Stump WM more. I had used Stump in the past, but there were certain things about it that kind of like didn't feel so right to me, but that was because I had used i3 a lot before that, and I was kind of used to how i3 worked. And i3 is kind of different than DWM and the automatic tiling window managers. So what I mean by that is Stump is a little bit more manual, and the thing that kind of irks me about it sometimes is that you can create a new split where there's like a hole in the window configuration where a new window can go, and it kind of felt weird to me to have that. So now obviously in Stump WM with enough code you can configure it to do whatever you want, I think, as far as window management is concerned. So it really was a matter of me just not spending enough time to try to figure out the ideal usage of it. So but these days I think I probably would have used Stump, or maybe Mahogany, like Gargiolo was talking about. Ehor says, awesome WM exposes low-level drawing, callbacks, and can be controlled through client. Might be another option to think about. Yeah, I mean, a lot of these can be controlled through clients, but I don't know if the level of integration that you get from Emacs is possible. Let me see. What did Fosker say here? Oh, haha. Whoops. So apparently my my Twitch stream says I'm playing Quake. Is that what's happening? Let me check that really quick. Arya says, have you tried Hawk? It's a global TTYX and Wayland rebinder. I have not heard of that. And hey, Dean. Jake says, Stump sounds similar to Herbstuff WM. It could be. Man, why is it saying that I'm playing Quake? That's so annoying. Oh, I know I did that. So Herbstuff WM, I guess the big difference is that it's not written in Common Lisp. But other than that, maybe the way that it works as a window manager is similar. Just trying to fix my other stream here. The problem with streaming in multiple places at once is that you end up having to manage multiple things at the same time, and it's kind of a pain. Elephant says, maybe Emacs C itself could be forked to integrate a Wayland compositor. I don't know. I think that's going to be a lot more trouble. Category, science and technology. All right, let me save that really quick. There we go. Yeah. Okay. Marcinero says there's a really cool project to make NIM a window, or make a NIM window manager. Something like that with Emacs would be nice to just test it out. Yeah, NIM is a cool language. I haven't actually tried it, but I've read a bit about it and it seems pretty cool. You know, I'm always sort of on the lookout for new systems programming languages to try. I've spent a little bit of time with Rust, but I was a little bit more excited about Zig because I felt like it was more of a C replacement, as Rust is more like a C++ replacement in a lot of ways. So, my goodness, man, I'm getting all kinds of weird spam right now. So yeah, NIM is something I would be interested to look into on live streams at some point in the future, but definitely not this live stream, but maybe the Twitch channel. Garjola says, there are two parts to Mahogany that need to be compiled separately, the backend written in C and the common lisp front end. The CL front end has yet to be written. Interesting. So it does have a C backend. Okay, well that sounds interesting actually. Garjola says the front end could be written in eLisp. That makes sense. I should look into that and see what they did. Christian says, I might try Stump. I dropped Exwm because my Emacs session is already super heavy, so I prefer to have multiple Emacs sessions running in different workspaces for different categories of stuff. Yeah, I've seen people actually set up a core Exwm session and then run individual Emacs instances inside of workspaces so that you have separate processes that won't get hung and your Exwm will still work. But that just felt like it would be a real pain in a certain part of the body. So I never wanted to do that because it seemed like it would just be really difficult to keep up. Neurotransmission says, what about finishing Remax and keeping Exwm? Well, Remax, I don't think that's going to get finished because I think they've already abandoned that project. And I think it would be... That's a situation like what Garjola was saying earlier. If people wanted to keep Remax going, people aren't just going to stop working on GNU Emacs. So you're going to have two different Emacs forks going at the same time. And one of them is written in a language that less people know. I mean, I guess more people might be interested in learning Rust, but it's dangerous, I think, to try to keep Remax going. A lot more chance of it failing, in my opinion. Alt F4 to win says, Remax has been dropped for the latest flavor of the month, Emacs NG. Yeah, Emacs NG seems to be popular. I don't bother trying it because I don't see the point, to be honest. KHWPP says, I've talked to the NimDAO dev. He's really committed to the project. Really great WM alternative and great for practicing Nim as well. Yeah, that sounds great. Yas says, check out VLang. Oh, VLang? Yeah, the VLang is funny because back whenever that language was announced, it seemed like vaporware because it, you know, the guy just showed up out of nowhere saying, oh, I have this language that's launching soon. It's going to have all these features. And it turns out the person actually did launch the language. I haven't used it, but it seems to be a real thing. But it was just funny how that got announced because it seemed like total vaporware at the beginning. Christian says, I might try it. I'm already doing that in Qtile, but not as nice as Exwm. Fosker says, I trust vanilla Emacs is quite an active project. Yeah, there's a lot of people who care a lot about GNU Emacs, and I don't think that it's going to be abandoned anytime soon. I think people depend on Emacs. It's a real tool that people use for real work every day across multiple domains. I would rather invest myself in using it rather than one of the alternatives that may just disappear because people decide that it's too hard to continue working on it. Because it is hard to do what people did to try to port everything in Rust. It's very hard to integrate another core into Emacs and have it work seamlessly. like they're doing with Emacs NG. So I think it's risky to depend on either of those. It's cool to try them. If you want to try them out and use them, that's great. But I don't think I would trust them to stay around for a long time. And that's not to say anything about the developers of those projects. I don't know any of them. I haven't really spent any time talking to anyone on those projects. I don't know what their interest level is, other than just whether they think it's a fun project or if they actually have like some real motivation behind it to do long-term work. But you know, any kind of big project like that takes a lot of dedication. Alt F4 to win says Eli is super active and apparently has been for 20 years at least. Yeah, Eli has definitely been super active. Marduk says, where did you say you spoke to the Penrose dev? The Penrose dev contacted me on Twitter, I think. It was a few months ago. Garzola says, and GNU Emacs is still alive because people had the patience and perseverance of signing the FSF papers, just saying. Well, some people have a much easier time because they're not encumbered. So I think that those people have an easier time getting into the project. I know that there are people who have gotten approval in recent times to work on Emacs or contribute things to like the GNU ELPA and whatnot. So it's possible, obviously. It's just a matter of whether the FSF can do their due diligence, if they have the resources to do the due diligence to approve people who have more complex copyright situations. Phosphor says, yeah, this is about software development, not programming. Getting real software to stay alive long-term is hard. Yeah, you need people who really care about the project for that to happen. That's for sure. Okay, so anyway, like I said, this could be a huge undertaking if anybody tries to do this alternative, but possibly more future-proof if we try to do it, or if we or whoever does this decides to do it in a way where it could work with Wayland as well, or maybe just focus on Wayland. I don't know. I don't know what the best thing is to do. Garjola says, I understand the difficulties of being difficulties depending of the employer, just being the chief harassment officer as usual. If you don't know, and System Crafters Incorporated, which is a fictitious organization, Garjola is the chief harassment officer. All right, so here's what I'm gonna do. So I've been talking about, like, you know, hypotheticals, what people could do. Solving this problem is important to me, or at least helping in some way to solve the problem, even if it's just me trying things and other people seeing it and learning from it and then being inspired to try it themselves. I can't live without having Emacs as my desktop environment. It's just something I've gotten so used to by this point that it's just not possible for me to think about moving to anything else. When I went and tried to use Stump this week, even though Stump is something that can be integrated with Emacs if you try hard enough, I just don't think I would be able to get it to the level of integration that I have with Exwm today, so it just didn't feel the same. As soon as I tried to evaluate an S expression while I was in a browser window, it like Alt colon, like Shift Alt colon, basically. Usually I'll do that for like doing math computations or like running a function or something like that. I do that often enough. I didn't realize I did it that often, but I do it often enough that it breaks my workflow whenever I don't have that ability anymore. Now, obviously you can say, well, StumpWM has the ability to evaluate arbitrary S expressions too if you want to use its thing. Or maybe I could have a way to invoke the mini buffer for Emacs to do the same thing there, but it's just clunky compared to what you can do with Exwm. So I still feel like there's value to be had in using Exwm or something like it. So what I want to do is start investigating all of the possibilities that I mentioned before in the admittedly limited free time that I have. I mean, obviously I am kind of like stretched in 15 different directions already because of the fact that I can't focus on one project at a time. But I do want to try this, and what I'm going to do is try to scope it to actually focusing on making progress within live streams. So I would like to live stream my work on this just so other people can see it, maybe learn some things about, you know, writing a window manager or at least maintaining Exwm or something like that. And maybe we can gather some people who are interested in contributing either to Exwm or a fork of Exwm or a new window manager project. You know, it's just a good learning project if nothing else, but I would like to try to solve some of these problems that we've been seeing so far. So if you haven't followed me on Twitch yet, I'm thinking I'm going to do this on Twitch only, because the YouTube streams on Fridays are kind of a different type of thing. Like what I've seen so far is that people aren't as interested in seeing live coding on the Friday streams. I mean, sometimes people like it, but generally these kind of discussion topics are better for the YouTube streams. So since there is more of a live coding culture on Twitch, I'm definitely going to focus on doing these kind of streams on Twitch. So definitely check out the twitch.tv/systemcrafters account there and follow that if you want to see me do this. Part of what I want to do while working on these streams is to sort of create a knowledge base of how window management works with Exwm, and not only Exwm, but with Wayland too, potentially. So, we'll just sort of review all of this information and see if we can learn some things from it, and then figure out how to either start writing a basic window manager just for fun to learn, or even start trying to fix issues in Exwm. And we're probably going to bounce around the code of Exwm, DWM, and probably some other window managers to sort of figure out how window management is done in different projects. It might be something that could be interesting to people. But yeah, I try to do live coding for this, and not just like reading documentation the whole time, but try to write some code here and there as much as possible. And as soon as we get like a good direction figured out with what seems to be the best approach, whether it's forking Exwm and trying to improve it, or if it's like writing a separate window manager or something in between, whatever that ends up being, we could try to get some community involvement and have some other people hacking on it as well. Yas says, please also on YouTube. If people would not be sort of annoyed seeing another live stream every week, I would also stream it on YouTube. But it's just really just a matter of what people want. So if you want to see this stuff streamed on YouTube, definitely let me know. Also, if you want to see the recordings of the streams on YouTube, maybe not posted with notifications or whatever, but just sort of like put up on the channel, I could also do that. Alt F4 to win says Zephyr is a great tool for testing WM code. Yes, I was planning on using that so I don't have to break my existing Exwm session. So yeah, I've tried it before. It does work pretty well. Case says look at TinyWM as well as the smallest possible X window manager. Good point. Yeah, I'll take a look at that. Let's see. And also, this is going to be a second stream per week. I really want to try to do this. It's difficult to do 2 streams per week, especially on weekdays. But what I've found is that weekends are not very convenient for people because, people have life responsibilities and families and other things they have to do on the weekends. So sometimes weekdays are easier. So what I would try to do is stream on Monday or Wednesday mornings, my time, probably 8 to 10 a.m. Pacific, which is going to be very similar to the time frame of this stream right now, just 1 hour before. So I'm trying to do it before work hours for me, so that we have some time to work on something and get a decent amount of progress made before the stream has to end. So another 2-hour stream. What do people think about Monday or Wednesday? In my opinion, I feel like Mondays aren't a good day because people are starting off the work week and maybe they're not in the mood to watch a stream because they've got people breathing down their neck because the week is starting. So I don't know if Wednesday is better for that. I don't know if Wednesday is too close to Friday and you don't want to watch 2 streams on Wednesday and Friday. Really just depends on what you all think on that topic. I'm sort of leaning towards Wednesdays right now, but I'm very happy to have feedback on that to see what people think. Neurotransmission says lasagna. I would love to eat some of that right now. Do you have some that you can give me? Thomas says Wednesday is better. Yep. Oops. Benoit says we'll have to watch it afterward. Yeah, Benoit is a very important engineer. He doesn't have time to watch streams on weekdays, which I understand. Garzola says on weekends we have a live. On weekdays we just have work. Yeah, it's better to try to avoid your work than to try to avoid your life, I think. That's my opinion, anyway. So yeah. Neurotransmission says, I meant that in a Garfield manner. I hate Mondays. Yeah, well, Garfield was a very wise being, I would say. Life is greater than work. Yeah, 100%. I'm trying to reorient my life around that concept. Yas says, yeah, exactly. YouTube keeps the stuff, plus we can watch it any day. Yeah, I would definitely upload recordings so people could watch it, because I think, you know, there's going to be general interest in this. So the people who can't make it live definitely can watch the recordings. I know it's difficult to watch 2-hour-long recordings. It might be something where I could try to make sort of shortened versions of the thing to show whatever was interesting, but that's also extra work, so we'll see whether I have time to do that. So, what do you think about all this? I mean, I've been talking for an hour now about this whole topic, so, I mean, I've got a lot of good feedback while it's been going on, but I'm definitely interested to see what you all think about sort of the state of Exwm, whether it makes sense to try to fork it, and whether it makes sense to do something different entirely. I mean, if people know for sure that it's possible to get approval for FSF contributions, and you know how to fast track that for people, or you know exactly who to talk to, that'd be great. Maybe Garzola knows who to talk to about that. So that would be helpful if we could streamline that process and maybe help other people get in as well. But if that's not possible, then it's going to be harder to contribute directly to Exwm. Brad says, hour-long and 2 hours, not too bad. Better than the 3, 4, 5 hour stream. I mean, as you can already tell, my voice starts to have issues after 1 hour. I start coughing and whatnot, so I definitely can't do 3, 4, 5 hour streams, that's for sure. I mean, it would be boring. I think my brain would be melted so bad by hour number 3 that I would probably just have to play solitaire instead. Alt F4 says, Techosaur has FSF assignment. Yeah, I should talk to Techosaur and see what their process was there. Fosker says, so do I. I wasn't that bad. I'll talk to you as well. Alt F4 to win says, seems like consensus is to drop Emacs and make a Vim window manager. Well, maybe you could do that in NeoVim, but as far as dropping Emacs entirely, I think that's not a good idea. I'm biased, though, obviously, because I make videos about Emacs all the time. I got no problems with Vim. Speaking of Vim, I saw Gavin here earlier. I forgot to say hello to him. Kay says, you gotta hydrate. Yeah, you see me sipping on stuff the whole time, but apparently I don't drink enough water before the stream, so I end up having problems. Cool. Well, we obviously have a lot of time left here, so I might try to... There's a few things I could do right now. We can try to look into some Emacs news, or maybe if people have things that they think are interesting that they want to suggest, like packages you saw this week. I don't want to go through a whole package potluck again, but we could try talking about some interesting things in the Emacs space this week. Hi says, I was willing to dive into Exwm, but now I'm a bit hesitant. How stable is it right now? I mean, I was complaining about a particular issue, but 95 to 99% of the time I have no issues. So it's not something where it's going to be hard to use, period. It's fine, especially if you don't use Exwm programs that often. So for me, I mean, I use a browser, and most of the time I don't have issues with browsers, but a lot of the other stuff that I do is in Emacs buffers. So I don't have a ton of problems with it, but when I do have problems, it's kind of frustrating. Yas says, I think it wouldn't make sense to fork something as in invent a new thing out of it if it ain't at least 10x better. I guess contributing to Exwm itself would be better. You have a good point there. I mean... It would need to have enough value that someone would be like, okay, I would rather use that even if the quality is not so good in the beginning, because obviously anything is going to be, it's going to take time before it becomes stable enough to use on a daily basis. So yeah, short term, the best thing would be is to fix issues with Exwm, but also it'd be fun to experiment with a new window manager that has some new ideas. Luke Minak says Emacs hackers seem to be increasing in numbers, so we might still see see some big projects arrive in the scene. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think there's definitely more interest. I see more interest all the time. Kay says, I wonder if you can bolt in a bunch of async calls to different packages to make Exwm less prone to freezing. I'm not sure if that is gonna be enough. Because from what I understand, async inside of Emacs is not true async. So if you look at Skeeto's blog post about that, I believe that he's proven that it's still not async enough. Let's see. Alt F4 to win says async.el is just process forking. Yeah, I think that Case was talking about a different thing, but yeah, async.el is process forking for sure. Let's see, who was it that said? Brad said that's vodka. Yeah, well, if it was anything, it'd be whiskey, but it's too early in the day for that. Ramsey says Alpha Papa made a new package called Taxi, and Alt F4 to win says Alpha Papa makes a new package every few hours. Yeah, there have been quite a few new packages from Alpha Papa lately. I think what happened is that he's been working on a bunch here and there and just had time to release all of them all of a sudden. So that's for sure. Jake says, if you want to use Exwm under GDM with a custom session file, you can put a .x session file marked as executable within the contents of your exinit, excuse me, and GDM will respect that file. Yeah, I used to do that. Not sure who he was responding to. I don't know what the GNU WUS is there. Glenn says, I use Exwm, so if I knew we would have a group trying to fix it, I would help. I'd rather fix than start again. Yep, for sure. Fosker says, I'd love it if we had native async. You know, stuff like that, I imagine, is going to happen. We're about to get native compilation. I mean, we have it now if you want to use master, but I think that gradually there will be a lot of technical improvements made to Emacs. This is another reason why I would love to have FSF copyright assignment, because I like working on compilers and interpreters a lot. I would love to make some contributions to Emacs, especially for some of these more complex things like that. It would be a lot of fun to me if I could help with things like that. So let me check one thing really quick. Let's see. Oh, EBN says you mentioned Emacs News, but surely you meant Emacs GNUs. Yeah, I guess you're right about that. That's the right pun to use in that case. Marcinero says reinvent a wheel that's as rounded as the original one is kind of painful. Yeah, if you basically try to do something again from scratch, it can be very painful because you don't have the benefit of understanding all the possible problem areas and edge cases and sharp edges that were discovered through the process of the first go-round. So I'm certainly aware of the dangers of doing something like that. Technomad says, just ordered a few shirts and hoodie from the new store. $11 flat fee to Europe is not too bad. Thank you so much. I just saw that come in. I appreciate that. Yeah, I think that the one nice thing about the shipping on this is that when you order on the store in Europe, they're actually fulfilled from Latvia, I think. There's another country in Europe. So the shipping is not that bad compared to if it was coming from the US or something. So thank you very much. That's awesome. And for any of you who buy things from the store, definitely, if you want to, send me pictures whenever you get it. I would love to see the stuff that you get. And if you want to share them on the System Crafter Discord, etc., definitely do that too. That'd be really cool. First name, last name says, I've been to Latvia. Riga is nice. Well, you know, I might have to go there just because I want to do a lot of traveling in Europe. I think Europe is cool. All right, so let's check Emacs News just to do some stuff here. I wasn't sure how long the Exwm discussion was going to take, so I didn't really prepare anything yet on that. In fact, let's jump to Qt browser in this case because I don't want to be blinding everybody. I don't know what windows are going to pop up now. Hopefully I don't run into the issue that I was complaining about. This is a case where I do end up having problems. Come on. Don't fail me today, please. Okay, let me drop this in. Paste. There we go. All right. This is March. Let's is there a tag for this? There we go. Emacs News. August 23rd. I'll drop this over to the other screen so we can all look at it together here. Latvia is my south neighbor from Estonia. That's cool. Garjola says to request a copyright assignment form is the FSF. You just need to send an email to assign@gnu.org. That's what I did. I haven't heard back from them yet. We'll see if they respond today or sometime soon. Okay. So one thing to definitely mention is that once again, that's cool. Alt F4 to win pasted a link to possibly the form itself. So Emacs Conf is coming up. Let's take a look at that really quick. Emacsconf.org. It's probably going to pop to a different screen. I'll have to jump back. So Emacs Conf call for proposals are due by September 30th. So like I've been saying the last few weeks, definitely submit your proposals for Emacs Conf so that you can be included in this, because I think it's going to be pretty fun to do presentations at this conference. Last year it was cool. I didn't participate then because I wasn't really ready to at that point. But I've made my own proposal this year and sent it in, and they confirmed that they received it, but they haven't actually started approving proposals yet. So if you send your proposal in, it may be a few weeks before you hear anything, but definitely give it a shot, because you can do a presentation at any level of expertise. You can do like a 5-minute presentation just showing some package you like. You could do like a 20-minute presentation for something a little bit longer, and also maybe even a 40-minute presentation if you have like a longer idea that you want to make a whole presentation on. So it is going to be fun, I think, to do this. It's going to be fun to see what presentations other people do. So if you're interested in doing a talk at Emacs Conf 2021, send your proposal in using these instructions here before September 30th. Hey, Noble and Savage, nice to see you here. Alt F4 to win says, hopefully Tico does a dramatic reading of his config. That would be pretty funny, actually. Thank you, Benoit. Let's see. EBN says, I'm surprised you don't use Nixt much faster than Qt as well, at least in my experience. I've had a couple issues with Nixt to the extent that I haven't got comfortable using it yet. Qt browser has been very smooth for me and supports a lot of things that I need. One problem with Nixt is that sort of by default, everywhere you get a binary of Nixt, you are using WebKit GTK, which is not as capable of a rendering engine as Web Engine that comes with Qt, or Qt, I guess. So I kind of depend on having a more full-featured rendering engine for some of the sites that I use, and WebKit GTK sometimes doesn't work very well with that, so Qt browser has been better. Obviously, you can build Nixt with the Web Engine component for Qt, but there's not a package for that in Geeks, and it also doesn't seem necessarily straightforward to do that, and it doesn't seem to be as supported or as maintained as an approach to building Nixt as the WebKit GTK side is. So haven't really spent much time on it yet. I want to. I really love the idea of Nixt, and I would love for that to be my browser, but I haven't gotten there yet. Thanks for coming by today, Thomas. Kay says, I'm thinking about submitting 2 talks to Emacs Conf. We'll definitely do that. I mean, you know, 2 is definitely better than 1. Eben4 says, Nixt is not a great experience for me. I've been looking at Veeb, which looks nice. I have not heard of that. Let's see what that is. Or is it like Vibe browser? Vim bindings for the web by design. Vim-inspired Electron browser. Okay. Yeah, I'm skeptical of anything that really depends too much on Electron. But it probably works fine because you've got like a full browser engine in there. So it might work well. I mean, it looks pretty much like VimB or Qt Browser to me. So if you like Electron-based apps, you might give this a shot. It looks pretty cool, actually. Nice logo. Let's get Jason Scott off the screen here. Alt F4 to win says, Electron for a web browser is probably the most sense it could be. Yeah, I mean, you're basically using the browser to be a browser at that point, so yeah. Camelo says, hey everyone, hey David, thanks to your series on Exwm, I've decided to make a pledge and switch from awesome WM. Emacs everywhere is awesome. Yes, it's very awesome, for sure. Garjola says, Nixt needs more love from this community. At some point, I'm gonna get deep into it. I was supposed to do it over my vacation time this summer, but then I had other things that I was doing as well, so I didn't get as much time to spend. I did do a little bit of Nixt experimentation, but that's how I found that I still have some of the same problems that I had before. So Eric says you should check out the browser called LuaKit. It's pretty cool, and there's a couple of projects for turning C-Lisp into Lua instead of running Lua. There's also Fennel, which is a Clojure-like Lisp language that compiles to Lua. So if I were to use something like LuaKit, I would probably use Fennel on top. I don't know if people have done that yet. Probably so. If you don't know about Fennel, I should be pasting these links in. Let me just go back to the... All right, so let's do this really quick. So Emacs Conf, CFP. Just grab that really quickly. Garjola says, Nixt needs David to take another month of vacation. I'll tell my manager that and see what they think about it. All right, so what was the other thing we just had open? I gotta pull over here. Not that, obviously. This Vibe. I'll copy this so that people can check it out if they want to. Ramses says Guile will also be able to compile to Lua. Is it possible now? I know that Guile has the ability to compile to different languages, but... Benoit says, on paper, Nixt has more pros than cons for my needs, but I've yet to make the jump. Yeah, I mean, it takes adjustment for sure. The cool thing about Nixt is they do actually have built-in Vim key bindings. So if you like using Vim-style key bindings, you can use them there pretty easily. So, all right, so I'm going to put in LuaKit. So for anybody who hasn't heard of LuaKit before, you can check out this. Benoit says, is Vibe pronounced Vibe? You're probably right, actually, but it's just not obvious. Man, this is annoying. I've got my my Exwm window rules set up such that all Qt browser instances go to workspace number 2. That's the reason why I keep having to jump back and forth. All right, so did I copy that one already? Vibe is pronounced like deep with a V and rhymes with sheep, so it's actually Veeb. I agree with Benoit, though. I think that Benoit has the right pronunciation. It should have been called Vibe. It would have been more appropriate for the present-day Zoomer aesthetic. Okay. I put that already. Somebody stop me. And I was going to LuaKit next. There we go. All right, so let's throw in Lua Kit here. Okay, so now I can go to Fennel finally. Fennel language. The Fennel programming language. This is something I've been interested in trying out because Lua itself is pretty interesting because they've done a really good job of making the runtime fast, and you can embed it into C programs easily. So if you have the power of Lua and you also have the ability to write in a language that's very similar to Clojure like this, it's kind of compelling, I think, for a scripting language for a program like a game or anything else. So if you could use Lua Kit and use Fennel as the configuration language, that could be pretty cool. So I might actually look into that at some point. This is for fun. Garjola says definitive. Probably in relation to the previous statement, your manager will sign your FSF papers and give you a long vacation as compensation, even maybe an indefinite unpaid vacation. That's more likely, I think. I'll tell them, hey, I want to contribute to free software. They'll be like, okay, you can contribute as much as you want because you're fired. And Garjola says V may be pronounced Zettelkasten browsen for the internet. Okay. You might be right. Paul says Fennel is extremely fun. Live game dev. Yeah, that's so game development is another one of my passions. And if I wasn't making a channel about Emacs right now, I'd probably be doing a channel about game development, probably with Lisps. So at some point in the future, I might do some videos on that. I've thought about it. I had been working on some stuff a little bit, but you know, I have limited time, as I keep saying. But one day, I'll probably jump into one of these, what did they call them? Game jams. Yeah, so I've done Ludum Dare before, or Ludum Dare, however you want to, Ludum Dare, however you want to pronounce that. I wonder if I can actually get to the page for this, and if it will kill the browser. Let's see, davidwill.github.io/ld28. So me and a friend of mine who's very good at art made a game for Ludum Dare 28. Oh God, it's so loud. Anyway, sorry if it's blowing your ears up right now, but basically you just drop a sword. Okay, stop the music, thank God. So you drop a sword from a bridge and you're basically trying to cut all of the things that are in the way on the way down, all the monsters and stuff. And then eventually you get down to the bottom, you're trying to like cut the head of the dragon off to save the maiden. I know it's not really appropriate, but we made this in what, 2012, I think? I'll get to the bottom in just a second. Boom, boom. So the theme of this, I missed it. The theme of this Ludum Dare was you only get one. So the concept was one sword. You get one chance to drop your sword to save the princess or something. So yeah, I would like to do another one of those game jams at some point, but I have not had time to do it in recent months. Yeah, that was super loud. Sorry about that. Noble and Savage says Fennel plus Love 2D. Yeah, that seems to be the combination to use in that case. I've not used Love 2D, but I hear a lot of good things about it. That it's it's easy to use. Oh no, what I made there was with JavaScript and Phaser, I think, because that was what was cool back in 2012. Phaser's pretty good. I guess I'll, okay. Plug your ears really quick. I'm gonna grab the link to that. Okay, there we go. Okay, so one sword game, in case people are interested in taking a look at that. I'd like to do more of that stuff in the future. I had been writing some games last year in Scheme, and when I started making Emacs videos, the Scheme game development sort of died, so. Garjola says Baggers has a channel about games and Common Lisp. I believe I've seen that channel, and I looked at it in the past because I was looking for resources on doing game development with Lisp. I mean, a lot of times you'll hear that that it's not possible to do game development with Lisp because it's a garbage collected language and blah, blah, blah. But depending on what kind of game you're making, it's totally possible to do game development with Lisp, even with any garbage collected language. There's plenty of games that are written in Python. So it's not really a good reason to say that a game can't be written in a particular language. Let's see. Let's jump back to the Emacs news because I totally got off track with talking about other fun stuff. And there we are. Peter Prevost using Emacs on Windows 10. So Peter is a member of the System Crafters community. This might be useful to anybody who is trying to use Emacs on Windows 10. I have not read this myself, but Peter has very well written blog posts about Emacs. There's actually a few other posts he's got on different things as well, like, you know, completion systems, setting up org mode, even like using something called iGraph, which I haven't heard about, to look at org-roam networks. So this may be a cool place for you to go check out some stuff. But yeah, if you're using Emacs on Windows 10, it seems like this just tells you how to set it up, but that might be enough for somebody who hasn't tried it on Windows yet. If you are in the, some might say, unfortunate position to be using Windows. I'm not expressing any personal opinion here, obviously. All right, let's see if I can paste that in again. So installing Emacs on Windows 10. See ya, Benoit. Okay. Did I still keep that? Okay, cool. What else? What else seems interesting? Easily define groups of repeat maps and associate them with commands. Did we not see that? Maybe we didn't see that. Emacs 28, it requires convenient function for defining multiple repeat maps using Emacs new repeat mode. So this is something that's new, or related to something that's new in Emacs 28 that I have not actually looked into yet, but it sounds like it could be cool. By using repeat mode, we can reduce the need to hold down modifier keys when entering commands. Now I wonder if this is for something like a button that you need to press repeatedly, like if you're like resizing a frame or a window. And maybe it just makes it so you don't have to keep holding the control key down. And I think this is an extension, which makes it more like God mode. So if you've heard of God mode, it's sort of like you can start with a control press of a key binding and then just press the individual letters of the remaining keys instead of having to continue holding control. I think that's the whole point of God mode. One benefit is you can usually avoid having to explicitly exit the map because only a few keys have been remapped. Does this not just create like a transient key map or something? Kind of curious about the code, actually. Let's put this on the other screen. How long is it? Okay, that's actually pretty short. I see. Okay. I think it's just using the repeaters functionality and adding some key bindings. Trying to understand. Okay, so if you press Control F for going forward day in calendar, then you can press F repeatedly after, is what I'm guessing this means. Repeat. Oops. What did I just do? Repeaters maps. Oh, okay, so it calls repeaters define maps. So in the list, I think it creates a key map. Sparse key map. Define key. Where is it using the actual repeat functionality? I don't see it using that. Maybe it's something that's about like define key that it's using. Exit only set thing, put thing. Okay, all right, here it is. I think this is the key to whatever's new in Emacs 28. Put thing into repeat map. Let's actually see, what is that? Let's go to the scratch buffer. Repeat map. I love that. Yeah, says, why no personal opinion? We're all here for that. This is your channel after all. I'm just, I'm being sarcastic. I appreciate that though. So the value of the repeating map for the next command, a command called from the map can set it again. Oh. Huh. So it's like, after pressing a key, you can set what the repeat map is. So it's like a special key map that can be used for saying what keys are available after pressing the current key or something like that. Repeat the most recently executed command. If repeat arg is non-nil, supply a prefix argument to that command. Otherwise, give this command the same prefix argument as it was given before. If it's invoked by a multi-character key sequence, it can be repeated by repeating the final character of that sequence. Okay, so this is like built-in functionality for basically doing something where if you press, excuse me, Control F, and that binding has a repeat map set up, and you can keep pressing F after that to keep repeating the same command over and over. Okay. Well, that's pretty useful because it's always been a pain point for people who are new to Emacs key bindings, because usually you're thinking, I would love to be able to just keep pressing tab. So, yeah, and you would use like maybe a transient key map for that, I think. So now it just gives you a more explicit way to do that. Christos says, that's not a normal describe variable help buffer. What is it? This is the package called helpful. Let me pull up Qt browser here. Helpful Emacs. So I discussed this one in the second video. Thank you, DuckDuckGo, for giving me my own video. In the second Emacs from Scratch video, but the package is, where is it? Come on now, let's see. Wilfred, helpful. Dude. GitHub. Come on. Where did this package go? There is a GitHub repo for this. All right, so github.com. Let's see. There it is. I don't know why it didn't show up in search results. Anyway, basically you can use this package and replace your help commands with the helpful versions of the commands, like helpful function, helpful variable, etc. And it will give you a lot more information in your documentation, like, you know, better formatting for one thing, but also like debugging flags, the actual source code for the thing, properties of the symbol, a lot of really useful stuff. I find this to be really key to quickly gathering a lot of information about functions or variables that are defined in Emacs packages. So let me drop that into the org file. Zero says in DuckDuckGo you can type !GH to do a GitHub search. That's helpful, thanks. And let's see. Matthew says, is repeat.el just sugar around set transient map? I mean, it might be, because this is what it seems like to me. Is like you have a transient map that you keep setting, or maybe you keep applying somehow. So maybe your function that you call doesn't have to set the transient map again. The repeat map can just take care of that for you, so that you can do that with any function. So seems pretty useful, to be honest. And is there any documentation for that? Repeat mode Emacs 28? Probably not. I mean, maybe they've written docs for it already. seems to possibly be in the news file, but whatever. All right, back to Emacs news. So some channel called System Crafters did a video called "Can We Fix a Bug in Emacs?" and failed miserably. No, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry that people thought I was very disappointed about not fixing the bug last week, but I mean, I was a little bit disappointed, but obviously I didn't know for sure whether it was going to work or not, so. Case says, if you have any good setup for helpful buffers and popping up windows, I'd love to hear them. I've been meaning to set up popper.el. You should talk to Karthik in the System Crafters IRC because he wrote that. I haven't tried it yet, though. I need to. I have a long, long list of packages that I need to try. Emacs Sidecar locals. I think there was some discussion about this in the System Crafters Discord last week. IdeasMan42, who coincidentally is one of the developers on Blender, which is pretty cool, wrote this package called Emacs Sidecar Locals, which is kind of like Dear Locals, but allows you to use them from a different location. So let's say you are working on a Git repository for a project at your job or that you work on with other people, and you can't commit a Dear Locals file into that repository because it's not your project. This library or this package would allow you to have that Dear Local configuration somewhere else on your hard drive, but apply it whenever that project gets opened so that you can have custom config for that project that just isn't checked into that repository. So there is stuff that you can use in your Emacs configuration for this. I think Matthew may be the one who pointed that out in the chat. I've used it before as well. I don't remember what the variable was, but there is some built-in functionality for that. But I think this may be another approach if you wanted to try it. If you have this particular problem, I'll drop that in here too. So was it Emacs Sidecar locals? Yeah. Emacs Sidecar locals. There we go. Garjola says, I think you failing to fix a bug in Emacs is an argument to convince your employer to sign the FSF papers. Well, I need more time, and if it turns out like I think it's going to turn out, it was going to require a lot more code to fix those bugs I looked at. So yeah, I would probably easily get past the 15-line limit. Oh, okay. Apurv, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your name correctly. Can you post the link to the site you're grabbing these news from? Yes. Well, all of you, if you're using an RSS feed reader, you should definitely add Sasha Chua's website to your RSS reader, because this Emacs news post comes out every week and it has all kinds of useful links to basically everything that happens in the Emacs community. So definitely check out Emacs news, so that you can get all this kind of information. A lot of times when I'm looking for things to talk about on the Friday streams, I'll check out the Emacs news sort of to see what's been happening that week and get some inspiration. Matthew says, do you mean the Dear Locals set class variables? Yes, that's what I meant. Let's look that up really quick. Dear Locals set what? Oh, is that a function? Set class variables. Map the type class to a list of variable settings. I think this was it, set directory class. Declare the directory root is an instance of class. So I think there's a pair of these that may need to be used together. I'm not exactly sure on that, but let's see. Or Dear Locals set directory class, etc. Yeah, let's go with that. Noble and Savage says all kinds of Emacs gains. Yeah, apparently we've seen the same YouTube channel. What else do we have here? We got about maybe 10, 15 minutes before I have to run off and do other things. So, interesting. Satya has a post about getting started learning how to interactively debug JavaScript in Emacs with Indium. So, Indium is an interesting project. This actually, I think, showed up before language server protocol stuff started getting added to Emacs or through packages and whatnot. I think Indium is written by Nicholas Pettin, who is also has written other Emacs packages and also designed the most recent Emacs logo, which is really nice. So that's cool. So I think this is a post about how to set that up for debugging in JavaScript. So if you need to do JavaScript dev in Emacs, this is one option aside from using LSP mode and DAP mode, etc. I haven't personally used Indium. I tried to use it in the past, but I didn't have a lot of luck, but that's because I probably just didn't try hard enough. But there is some information here in case you want to learn how to use that yourself. Matthew says, yeah, one assigns classes to paths, the other applies dir locals forms to the classes. Yeah, which has some interesting properties, I think, is if you can define things in terms of classes, like this is a Python project, then if you say that a particular directory is a certain type of class, I don't know if maybe you could say multiple classes and then kind of merge different dir local configs together. That could be pretty helpful, I think. Hot girls and boys video chat. That's... I think that the longer you stream... Oh, great. Here we go. Bye-bye. The longer you stream... I hope I blocked the right thing. Here we go. Let's do that and then do this. Apparently, the more spammers just show up. Case says, what's your favorite food? Dude, I don't even know. I can't tell you what my favorite food is because there's just too many good foods in the world. I think I would be committing a crime if I said one was better than the other. Just like I can't tell you what my favorite band is or whatever. Only thing I can tell you is what my favorite program is, and you obviously know which one that is because we're here right now. It's Vim. So started learning how to interactively debug. Let's see. What? What's happening? Thank you. All right. Debugging JavaScript in Emacs with Indium. Okay. Matthew says, so it's enough for me in that, in that nothing gets in my repository clones, but the reusable part is still version controlled in my configuration. Yeah, definitely. It's cool that you can have version controlled config for a project that does not have to live in that folder for the project. I was using that back when I worked on Atom, and yes, I was actually using Emacs to do development on the Atom text editor, which is pretty funny. But I had to do that in that project. Daigo says, is it possible to convert org-rome v2 file to HTML? I'm suffering from an impossible to resolve ID link. In general, yeah, it would be. But I don't know how ID links work when it comes to HTML export. So, yeah. I'm not sure about the answer to that question, but maybe... You can either come to the Discord or IRC or send me an email and I'll try to help you. Yas says Microsoft Office. Yeah, but that's multiple programs. So if you ask me to tell you what my favorite Microsoft Office program is, I would probably have to say Access. I'm not serious. Garjola says one interesting topic is also exploring other kernels than Linux. Yeah, certainly. I mean, we could look at GNU Herd at some point. So, a friend of mine, Jonathan Turner, who has a channel called Systems with JT, I think he did a video on that. Let's see if YouTube decides it wants to load up. Hey, I'm live. And so is Primogen, obviously. So, let's see. I'm looking for Systems with JT GNU Herd. I have not watched this yet, but I saw it on his list of posts. So,
hello everyone.
All right, let's not actually watch that video right now. But if you're interested to see what a Linux config that uses Herd looks like, you can check that out. What's that video called? Taking a look at GNU Herd. Also, at some point, I would like to just try out one of the BSDs, like maybe OpenBSD or something like that. Because I have never tried one of those before, and it might be cool to just try that out. Jerwin says, did any of the devs use Atom? Yeah, the rest of them did. I was the only one, I think, using something else. That was the point where my Emacs obsession really came into play. I started using Exwm quite a lot at that point in time. Someone else said something interesting. Christo says, do you have any experience with setting up a step debugger like edebug for Scheme? I've not done that yet, but eventually I would like to try to do that. There was another thing I saw that was interesting. Where was that? Oh, Noble and Savage says, favorite bootloader for Emacs. That would have to be GNU Geeks. Garzolo says, I was thinking about BSD actually. Yeah, BSD is really interesting. I think that's cool. Case says Geeks was Herd. I mean, I think the overall goal for Geeks would be to use Herd, but Herd is just not far enough along, and it's not going to have driver support for like commonly used computers. So I feel like it's going to be a long road to getting to where Herd would be the primary kernel for Geeks. They did say that was their goal, that they were going to switch to Herd as a primary kernel, but if you look at the date of that blog post they wrote, it was on April 1st, so I don't think that was meant to be serious. That was pretty funny, though. It scared me, actually. All right, anything else that was interesting here? Whoops, that's the wrong place. Working with Git and patches. Okay, that's 2020. Even further refinements of org roam usage. I think I saw this post going around, but I haven't looked at it yet. Oh yeah, I liked this menu that Jeremy here created in this blog post. So basically, they're creating their own sort of extra interface on top of org roam to make things easier to search for or easier to capture. So this is a blog post talking about how they put together a Hydra, basically, to give them quick key bindings for a lot of the things that they would want to do in org roam. And I definitely recommend trying to do something like this if you use org roam a lot, or even org mode a lot. If there's things you do very commonly, you could try to come up with a cool interface or a nice set of key bindings that are really efficient for you, which is what Jeremy did here. So definitely cool to look into that, I think. What was that called? Even further refinements of org roam usage. Speaking of org roam, I think next week we'll probably take a break from org roam and go back to Magit, because I need to follow up on what we had started talking about there. I'm probably going to do a video related to rebasing with Magit, but I need to look and see what else I haven't covered yet, because maybe there's something else that I'm missing. But Magit is definitely a fun topic to get back into. I'm kind of glad to take a break from org roam a little bit and talk about something else for a week. But I think we'll try to finish out what I had in mind for org roam fairly soon. Maybe there's like 2 or 3 more videos I have in mind for that. Garjola says, actually, there are people getting worried about corporate interests getting into the Linux kernel orientations, a little bit like the systemd issues. Well, I mean, Linux has gotten so successful now that, of course, businesses want to use it because, you know, it's very cost efficient and it's high quality. So in any case like this, you're going to have companies wanting to make use of it, basically. Kay says, idea for a Friday stream. Most Emacs possible systems. System E, init, Exwm, EWW, only Emacs. Well, I mean, my ultimate goal is to be as Emacs as possible, but it's kind of difficult. System E, I don't know. Does that actually work? I thought it was just a joke. If it actually works, I would be interested to try it to see if it's worth it. Garjola says, what's System E? Well, let's look it up really quickly because I should include it in the links. So it's basically an init system run through Emacs. And it sounds about as crazy as it... Well, it is about as crazy as it sounds. It says a lightweight systemd replacement written in Emacs Lisp, and because it has the rolling on floor laughing emoji around the description, you know it's not fully serious. Using the tooling in this repo, I'm able to boot from Linux to SNIT as PID1, and from there to Emacs acting as PID2 using script mode, performing all typical RC boot system initialization with using Emacs Lisp until we hit the TTY, basically. So, yeah. You have to use KISS Linux, I think, to make this work. So, yeah, if you're interested enough in trying something like that, go check out systeme. For me, I'm perfectly happy using Shepherd, which is written in Guile Scheme. Yeah, you would definitely need to roll back after that, I think. All right, one last link. Anything interesting here? Oh, yeah. So, I don't know if anyone had heard about this, but Protesilios Stavru, Prot, otherwise known as Prot, had some issues with his laptop. His battery died, I think. So he basically, I think in the previous blog post, said that his battery is no longer charging, and it basically died. So he was going to be offline for a while to get it repaired. And then a lot of nice people sent him donations to help get the battery replaced, but he ended up getting enough donations that he started looking into buying a new computer. So if you're interested in helping out Prot to get a new computer and get his computer setup back together, then definitely consider sending a donation to Prot. I think that there is a link at the bottom of his page, all the pages, to his PayPal. So if you wanted to send him a donation for that, then you should. Let's see, Prot system failure. Put a link there to that. And PayPal. Let's see. Noble and Savage says, any experience of opening, say, an Android emulator in Exwm? I've not tried an Android emulator, but I wouldn't think it would have a problem. I think it should be fine. Garjola says, on Debian, you can now choose between systemd and init. Yeah, not really surprised about that. Garjola says, I was considering UNICEF, but Prot comes first. I am evil. Well, it depends on what your priorities are. I think that, helping a fellow Emacs community member is not a bad idea. You can always contribute to humanitarian efforts another day. Javer says, I cannot see my previous message on screen and my shadow banned. If you posted a link, it's possible that it got eaten by YouTube. So I want to say this for everybody because I get some comments about it sometimes. If you post a comment on a YouTube video that has a link in it, 99% of the time, YouTube is going to delete it immediately. I don't delete those comments. I would prefer for them to stay there, but I don't seem to have control over that. I think they're very concerned about spam. Now, the stupid thing is, many comments that are actually spam still make it through. I don't know exactly how that works, but apparently the spammers have figured out how to set up their links so that YouTube doesn't delete those. But the nice people who want to give links to things on GitHub or any other project that's related to Emacs or documentation pages, those comments often get deleted. So if you leave a link inside of the YouTube live stream chat or on YouTube comments, sometimes it gets deleted. So don't feel bad if you see that. Just paste it again without the link, or maybe try to obscure the link somehow, like before the .com or something, put a space. Japer says, would be very cool if you could do a conversation stream with the two Zettelkasten writers who showed up for your last stream someday once you really customize Orgrim to your liking. I could definitely try that. They'd probably be game for that. Yas says, I even play games on Exwm. Guess it won't hurt much to run an emulator comparing to a full-blown Windows game. Yeah, I've played games in Exwm. The only thing you should be careful about is line mode versus care mode. and how that affects how key bindings work, because you may need to turn care mode on in Exwm. That's toggle input, Exwm input toggle keyboard. And that will turn it to care mode, I think, which makes it so that all keys go into that window. But then sometimes Emacs key bindings don't work anymore. So you might have to click into another part of the window, the Emacs window, to get your keyboard functionality back. Paul says, what bar do you use at the top of your screen? Greetings from Germany. Polybar. Willem says, gotta go. Your show notes are a gold mine, by the way. Thank you. I put a lot of work into those, so I appreciate you saying that. Garjola says, IRC allows links. Yeah, well, we'll have to get IRC set up as the way to chat in live streams at someday. Noble and Savage says, I get a janky experience flickering artifacts on tiling window managers opening an emulator window, which mostly stops when I float that window. That's interesting. I'm not surprised. Sometimes there's issues with that kind of thing. Elephant says, have you heard of the Emacs Desktop Notification Center? I have heard of that, and I haven't really tried it yet, but the author of that sent me a message on Twitter asking me about it, so I might take a look at it one day. Marcinero says, you can set care mode to default so you don't have such problems. Yeah, you can definitely do that, for sure. Polybar is great. If you haven't settled on a good bar program, Polybar is probably the best one I've tried. I've got a video on how to integrate it with Exwm also, as Garjola mentions there. If you look for Emacs Polybar Exwm, just search for that. I think it should show up on a search engine. Yeah. No. Yeah, the perfect panel. I think Qt Browser has inverted this image and it looks terrible, but the actual thumbnail is not so bad. So yeah, that's the video. In fact, I'll just copy that link and drop it in the chat. All right, I got to get out of here. So let me just start shutting these things down a little bit. So yeah, I'll commit these show notes so that everybody can take a look at these, all the links that we talked about today. I want to remind you again about the store that's open now, store.systemcrappers.net. Definitely go take a look at all the stuff that we have there. Some really cool shirts and hoodies and coffee cups and stickers and that kind of thing. I'll be adding more stuff there later, so please feel free to send me your suggestions or your criticisms or whatever that you have. I want to hear all the feedback that you have, honestly, because this is my first time doing this. I don't really know what I'm doing, so I need input so I can make it better. So across every dimension, you know, shipping, pricing, the stuff that we have, the way it looks, whatever. Anything you want to tell me, just please give me some feedback. And also, before I go, I will say thank you to my sponsors. I'm not even going to show the screen this today because I don't want to offend people, because I still haven't updated it. Obviously, I need to stop doing all this other random stuff and focus on updating the sponsor screen. But the people who sponsored, screw it, I'll show it just because I need to. The people who, these people have decided to sponsor this channel and the videos that I make about GNU Emacs and GNU Geeks, and I'm really thankful to them for their support. If you're interested in becoming a sponsor of the channel or a patron, definitely check out the link below in the description. I think it's like a support the channel link that's below there. Also, the store is a great way to support the channel these days as well. And if you don't want to do financial support of any kind, definitely just clicking like on the video, or watching the videos as they're released and letting them play or whatever is helpful for the YouTube algorithm, because apparently they only care about which videos you click on and not what channels you subscribe to. So that's just the way it works these days. Man, this thing is relentless. Yes, that is I'll just copy and paste that into my org file later. Thank you, Elephant. Garjola says, so we have a date Wednesday morning on Twitch. Yeah, let's say Wednesday morning, Wednesday morning, barring that I forgot I have some appointment or something, we will try to do the first stream on the window management stuff. So, yeah, check that out. I will let people know if that's going to change well ahead of time. So I'll let you know if it's going to be on a different day. But anyway, thank you all so much for being here today. I really appreciate the support, especially all of you who bought something from the store while we were live. Like I said, I see them coming in. I really appreciate all of you, but I didn't want to name names so anybody doesn't feel uncomfortable. So So keep an eye out for the next video, probably on Tuesday. I think we'll be talking about Magit, as I mentioned, and then also Wednesday we'll try to do a new live stream series, and we'll give that a shot, and then we'll be back here again on Friday. So you'll get too much System Crafters next week, but maybe that's fine. We'll see. I guess we'll see if it works for me. I might keel over, especially if I die from dehydration before then. So let's see what happens. Anyway, thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. Hope you all have a great weekend, and until next time, happy hacking. We'll see you.